And now we are here for our final part of the story. Let's get right to it. Ready? Third part is Jesus is risen. And this is what we'll be celebrating this Easter Sunday, as we do every Easter Sundays. It was very early in the morning. You could just pick out the shape of the cross on the top of the hill. There it stood, grim and bare. Jesus had died on it. A little way down the hill was a garden. It was a bit wild and overgrown. And in one corner was a tomb. That's where Jesus was put when he died. Into the garden came a woman. Her name was Mary Magdalene. She was one of Jesus' friends. She wanted to make sure everything was all right at the tomb. What a shock she had! The big stone that had been blocking the entrance had rolled away. And when she looked inside the tomb, the body of Jesus wasn't there. Mary Magdalene was so upset. She ran straight back to town. She thought somebody had stolen Jesus' body. On the way back, she bumped into Peter and John, two of Jesus' best friends. Oh, she cried, an awful thing has happened. Can anything be worse? Peter said. Yes, it can. Someone's taken Jesus away from the tomb. Peter and John didn't stop to ask any more questions. They picked up their coats and they ran as fast as they could to the tomb in the garden. Mary Magdalene ran back too, crying all the way. Peter and John went inside the tomb. It was dark, but they could see soon enough that it was empty. The strangest thing was that the cloths which Jesus' body had been wrapped in were there, and they were all folded up neatly. What do you make of this? Said Peter and John to each other. John was in a whirl. Then he had a thought. I'm sure Jesus said something like this would happen. And they hurried back to Jerusalem. There you can see. They're hurrying back. Okay, got their torches. Meanwhile, Mary sat outside the tomb. How sad she felt. Then she looked inside the tomb again and saw two angels. Why are you crying? They asked. Jesus has been taken away, she said, and I don't know where he is. Just then somebody behind her tapped her on the shoulder. Mary. It was only after he spoke that Mary realised it was Jesus. "Master," she said, and ran to hug him. She was so happy to see him alive. The trouble was, when Mary Magdalene told all Jesus' friends that she had seen him alive with her very own eyes, they didn't really believe her. They were so sad and puzzled, you see. Except for Peter and John, who weren't sure. "Well, you might be right," they said. Now, a little later in the day, Cleopas and his friends set off from Jerusalem on the road to Emmaus. Jesus came and joined them. You know it was Jesus, but they didn't at this point. "You must be the only man in Jerusalem who doesn't know what has happened," they said. "Our friend Jesus, a great prophet, was killed. What's more, his body's vanished. And, would you believe, Mary Magdalene says she's seen him alive." Jesus said, "Didn't you know it all had to happen like this, just as the prophets said?" And he told him of the parts about himself in the Jewish writings and what they meant. It was almost evening when they reached Emmaus. "Stay and have something to eat," they said. So Jesus did. He took the bread and blessed it and broke it. And suddenly they realized who he was. And as soon as they realized, he had gone. They forgot all about their supper, and they thought they'd better get back to Jerusalem and tell the others. So they ran all the way back into the city, along the back streets, up the stairs, to the room where Jesus' friends were. "We've just seen Jesus! We've just seen Jesus!" There was an uproar. Everybody was talking. Everybody was shouting. "I don't believe it," said Matthew. "I told you so," said Mary. There was such a noise and everyone was so excited they didn't notice right away that Jesus was there, in the middle of them all. "Peace be with you," he said. And you could have heard a pin drop. Peter was the first one to speak. "Is it really you?" he asked. "Of course." Jesus showed him his hands and his feet. Look where I was hurt when they put me on the cross." They knew for sure it was Jesus, and everybody jumped for joy. Now Thomas, who was another of Jesus' friends, wasn't there at the time. When he came along the next day, he didn't believe a word of it. "You must be joking," he said. "Unless Jesus appears to me as well, and I can touch him, I think that you're having me on." A few days later, that's exactly what happened. Jesus' friends were all eating supper together, and there was Jesus. See at the bottom there. "Peace to you all," he said, and then he called Thomas. "Come on then, touch me and see for yourself, Thomas." And so Thomas did. He knew that it was Jesus after all, as real as the day he was born. Later on, some of Jesus' friends decided to go fishing on the lake. They were out all night because that's the best time to catch fish. And they didn't catch anything. "It's morning," said Peter. "Let's give up. I'm hungry." Then a voice called them from the seashore. "Ahoy! Why don't you throw your nets on the other side?" They did. There were so many fish, they had to pull the nets into the shore with them. "Look," said John, "it's Jesus." Peter was so excited he swam to the shore. Jesus had got a fire going when the others had come, and he said, "Come and have breakfast." They had some cooked fish. Jesus got some bread out, and they had a slap-up breakfast, one of the best they'd ever had. Soon after that, Jesus went to join his Father in heaven, but he promised he would be with anyone who was his friend always. So, that's the end of our story. How are you feeling now? You feeling a little bit chirpier, a little bit better? Well, it is an amazing Easter story, and that is the story that we're remembering this weekend, this Easter weekend. So, whoever you are, wherever you are, just know that just like in the story, it says that Jesus will be with us always. So if you're lonely, sad, and missing your family and your friends, know that Jesus is right there with you. You're going to say bye-bye now. Bye-bye.